I'm Skynia, and this is my first time talking on this channel. I have many endeavors, so sometimes it's hard to keep focused. Wanted to introduce my process because I feel it is a creative wellspring in which I created this flow between my instruments, including starting here with the major inspiration being 4-track tape deck. This is a Yamaha MT4X. I create tape loops, which I'm not the only one, if I can find a clear one that I have, but I actually found the Bible on tape, which for me was a great source of medium because it's very limited for 10 bucks. I don't know if it's sacrilegious or not, but I actually found some really unique tape loops just by cutting up the phrases in the Bible. But that's where the inspiration starts. I'll create a tape loop, record random foley on it, or use random snippets like I mentioned, and then create a composite, melody or whatever. Sometimes I'll record like A, D, E, G, and have chords here that I could play up and down. And I'll create that pattern to the looper. And I've been using this simple looper for a while where I have cascading happening. So I could do continuous mixing from where I capture the tape loop and then I swap out that tape for another tape and then capture that tape loop on the other one. And then this becomes almost like DJing, side one and side two, right? So tape loop, while this one's fading out, I'm layering that one with my other instruments. So starting from the top left, one of my favorite instruments because it's so unique is the Lyra 8 organismic synthesizer, created, I believe, either Russian, I don't quote me on that, but Vlad is the developer. Very interesting, unique piece. I believe there's only one transistor or resistor in this unit, which means that all the current has to flow through these. They're not even voices. He calls them voices just to be simple, but it's a very unique instrument in the sense that there's one current flowing through it like it's alive. And in order to keep it alive and flowing, you have to give it juice. And by adjusting the mod settings per voice, sharpness is like a high-pass filter. The real magic comes when you use the hold, where groupings of voices by 2 and then by 4, okay, they could be cross-modulated using these switches. So this grouping right here, so aptly named 5 and 6, you can assign modulation to modulate by 7 and 8. So when I turn up the mod knob, it's very similar to frequency modulation, but not exactly. Take the incoming, well, I shouldn't even say incoming, but the path from 7 and 8 to 5 and 6 and cross-modulate it. Let's explore that now. So I'm going to stop this loop that I had, and part of my process is also letting it go. Almost like, I should turn around and speak about this. So there's like a sort of a Buddhist philosophy, just a good general philosophy in life is that everything comes to end. Entropy is the only thing that holds sway over everything in the universe. And so everything comes to an end. So learning how to let go and allow. I've found that after producing predominantly German-based music for almost 30 years now, that structured dance music can always keep you like in this tight, narrow grid. And it's hard to find inspiration there because it's so much noodling, it's so much thinking, planning, plotting, and also staying within a genre space, and the limitations there, and having to mix and master to a certain dynamic range in order to capture the ears of competitors and things like that. So what I've discovered by building this other rig outside of my just computer environments, literally right to the right of it, and I'll show you that. That's why I'm doing this kind of freeform, no planning, right? And just on my phone to kind of show you around my space, which is my living space, of course, but I haven't had a TV in 15 years, so because I just replaced that, and video games with making music. So what I'm saying is I wanted to go DAWless to explore non-linear. Also, this term emergence keeps coming up. And then I discovered that there were a couple of art movements, music movements, Les Musiques Concrètes, which was a French movement where they discovered found sounds like folly, recorded sounds, environmental sounds, and the organic textures that were derived from that and making them musical. Almost can kind of tie that into sampling, right? So looping is like sampling. But going back what I was saying to before is that I felt like I was always stuck in this funnel, and I developed this modality, if you will, starting with a tape loop, which has artifacts to it. I'll get more into that in a minute. To just capturing something on the fly, not having to get it all pretty and already tweaking it with a digital EQ and everything in Ableton, but then allowing myself to, what will flow with that? And a lot of my synths that I've picked for this rig, like the Lyra, is very organismic is a good term for it, because like I said, its expression is raw. It doesn't even have keys on it. The tuning, I don't even know what the tuning is. I do know monitoring about what I'm going to bring in, and it's magical because like just as soon as I start touching it, like I'll tune it up like within a second, and I'm already into some like amazing crescendo or organic spacey environment that I would have never have been able to create if I sat behind a DAW on a computer and tried to render it, right? And I've been doing this for, like I said, almost 30 years, so I can render almost every sound for the most part that I want to. It just it depends how much time I want to spend. And what happens within 30 seconds on this rig, which is like almost like the cockpit, I believe, it like transports me somewhere else. It took me about 2 to 3 years to like refine this process. It's really taking me in a direction that I want to go in more so than structured dance music on a grid. And it's also somewhat magical in how it almost kind of, like I said, emerges. So even in like the digital space with like NFTs and generative art and AI, there's this term emergence that definitely fits the characteristic of what I'm exploring here, which is that when I find myself allowing myself to just pop a random tape loop in that's dirtyish and doesn't really sound, perfect. Like if I recorded it and scrutinized it with mastering engineer ears, I'd be like, that's not going in a song because it's just going to create havoc in my mix later, and I have to reach a certain dynamic range. It has to be clean and crisp. I want it to be loud, and that's too dirty coming off a tape. I wouldn't use it for a professional, drum and bass song, electronic song that I'm going to put on the dance music market, right? But in this process, it can almost be like fit into almost like lo-fi. I characterize it as cinematic lo-fi ambient soundscapes. It always changes, but that's the thing. It's so it can't really be defined. That's the whole thing. It's about allowing kind of almost like nature to come through. There is a person that I discovered that was able to connect receptors. What's the word? Sensors to plants and capturing the electrical energy coming off of plants and transcribing that through a modular synth, so the plants are like talking to the modular synth. So but let me get back to the flow here and get into the organic response of the synthesis that I have going on here. Because with the White Angel, I call it the White Angel, that's this model of the Lyra. There's no keys, as you could see, so these sensors, as the developer Vlad details in the manual, which is awesome, is that it connects to the nervous system. So this sound right here, see if I can get some monitor, here we go. So I have to hit both. If I just hit this one, it doesn't make the loop. It needs my body to actually make the loop, right? So I need to hit both with one finger as well. Now, there's really only a fast action to the envelope, or as you can see, a long one. I'll turn the delay off. And the tones are super raw. You would not even think they're pleasant if I was to just reset this first 4 groups. And it goes from basically high to low, from right to left, as you would expect. But as you can see, there's 2 groupings of 2, right? Because they share a master pitch and they share a hold, all 4 of them, okay? And then you have your mod. So this one can mod that one can mod this one, okay? Or the LFO dedicated LFO, which is up here, yes, and then dedicated analog distortion, and there's an input back here, so I could put a mic in here or anything just to use this distortion, which is amazing. And the delay, by the way, it's so good. Here's the LFO, and what I like about it is that there's two of them, and again, for the randomness, the sync barely works. There's a 1/4 inch in there. It should be 1/8 inch mini jack, but it's not. It doesn't really work. I haven't really figured out how to get it to work, but I don't really care. You can pick between these two pulses, and you can see the way the light's flashing, either end, so this and that one combined, or this one, and it randomizes that, which is amazing. So I usually keep it on random. And then, like I said, the distortion. But just check out, if I put these on fast, and what's crazy about this instrument, first of all, is that if I'm sweating, things like that, it changes the tonality. I just lick my fingers, get a little bit of a better charge. But now see, if I put it, these can be tuned, by the way, so if I put it on hold, it's basically, I think, a square wave. But now you'll have like an organ effect. Ready? Sharpness. And then I'll put the hold on. Okay? Now you know where I'm going with this. Now the magical delay, analog bucket brigade delay. Here we go. So that's an amazing dramatic ambient pad. What's happening there is that we're sustaining that voltage. So, but if I take the hold down, that signal will die out, that voltage, that energy will spiral out, and the whole idea is to keep the momentum. And what that does, actually, it connects you. It literally connects you to this instrument because you're playing with it, and you have to keep it. It's like any other analog synth, really, but because this one only has, like, seriously just one voice passing through all this FM modulation and your layers, like if I turn this down, watch as I keep the notes going, and then I'll add the modulation in, okay? So this synth alone, I could score a thriller or a horror film in 5 minutes. Check this out. With the modulation, the cross modulation, ready? So this switches up, which means that these two channels are frequency modulating these two by 50%. And this one is vice versa. These two channels are being frequency modulated by this, and that's at 50%. Ready? You hear that bending? It's that one resistor effect of that voice getting pulled through all these different pinch points, right? And so it's squeezing that voltage around and moving it through this. That's the best way I can look at it. And by the way he wrote the manual and the way this piece is literally constructed, you can't think of it as like chords. You're not playing chords. It's not that at all. Check this out. Feedback. That's feedback from the delay. Ready? And the delay has two modulators, and those two dual delay 2 times and 2 mods. So 1 mod per delay. Check this out. That error. Listen to that. And there's vibrato, and when you put it in total feedback mode, this thing just loops like infinitely. It's an insane harmonic generator that just creates the most unique, brassy, string-oriented. I'll get deep tones down here, but it's not meant for bass, right? Dance music. This is an explorative device with these unique contacts that connects you to frequency adaptation in a way that triggers something in my brain that unlocks so much potential. It's only dying out right now. And once it gets cooking, you see how hot that is? Before it was kind of cold, and then once you run it through reverbs and effects, that's pretty much lights out. Dreadbox, the Nix. This was my first analog synth. I might actually be selling this soon, but the reverb is actually effing fantastic. It's just the routing is a little too complicated for what my flow entails. Although I made some amazing patches with this, because albeit it has your Euro rack standard 1/8 inch, which I wish the Lyra had, but this has, this would be a great integration into a Euro rack setup. I do have tons of these, and I like to do the dual patches because there's not many options, so I think they call that daisy chain or whatever. But yeah, really amazing effects. However, I just don't like that the LFOs are not syncable. It doesn't have to be the tempo, but they don't restart. They're both freeform. And it's a shame because there's like 4 or 8 options here, and then another 4 options here. So when you take 4, 4, and 4 and do the combinations between those 3 groupings, that's how many options you have for routing these 2 modulators. And the expression of the post filter and the original cutoff filter. So these over here, these settings determine how these two, are they joined? Or is one a low pass? Is one a high pass? Or are they both high passes? Or are they both low passes? Feel me? So you have basically two independent filters. It's one filter, but the unique thing about this is that based on this here, split, I think is, or half. Half, I think, is like low and then high pass. And then here's your resonance. And then depending here, this determines how the modulators operate. So you can have both modulators, you can have the split modulators, which it determines how the filters behave. Will you have this filter go to this mod, or this and this filter go to that mod, or reversed, or have both of them go to both mods, or both of them only go to one mod? It's insane. So getting introduced to analog synthesis in a compact space for under a $700 footprint is pretty outstanding with what you can do with this. In fact, talking about it, I think I'm going to keep it. Sometimes this is the center point of what could be a live rig. I've done a few live performances, but I usually just do it with the cassette tape loops freeform with the looper, with the foot pedal, and my kalimba is a central instrument in my process. You'll hear it in a lot of my videos. A lot of that sparkly, tinkly stuff, that's the kalimba running through my Basel Time effects processor, which I'll get into in a second. This is the Deluge by Synthstrom. I actually love this instrument. And my other alias, Morals, I produce like footwork, bass music, electronica, drum and bassy type stuff, but more halftime. I did a preset, a couple of presets for them when this thing debuted. So it's pretty awesome. I'm not sure if it's still included, but anyway, this is made in, I believe, in New Zealand, and this is a workhorse. So I think when I bought it, it was like $9.99. Now I think they're up to like $12.99, and it's a little bloated, but it's easier to go through. They have a new screen now, which includes more information. But what was awesome about this is that you can dial in. It's just LED. So again, with the DAW-less, I wanted to get away from computers. That's one of the reasons. I was like, it looks like Ableton, so you could do sequencing, unlimited tracks. What you can sequence, synths, internal synth, it's got subtractive and FM, and then kits. It's got built-in kits, but you can sample. It's got a built-in looper, so you can obviously plot your own kits, which all have individual processing, filters and whatnot. A MIDI track, so I use this to trigger my Nicks. So all I got to do is switch this to MIDI and then put it on 2. And if I hit a note here. So let's explore the Nicks by way of using MIDI trigger. So anything that I put in here, if I play it, it's going to trigger the Nicks, which is coming into the Mackie board. So real quickly, I have a small little Mackie desk. I'm actually having problems with it because it's hot on the right, or it's lower on the left channel, vice versa. But anyway, I have the Nicks. So the White Angel here is on 1. I'm sorry, the Lyra is on 1. The Nicks is on 2. The Deluge and its synths are on 3. 5 and 6 is the tape deck, which includes on a input, which I'm using the returns. On one return is my kalimba. This is an African kalimba tuned to a special Lotus tuning, crafted actually in Africa and shipped here and sold exclusively by Kalimba Magic here in Tucson. So blessed to have this piece. It's, like I said, one of the focal points of the Skynia sound. And then also another Soma Instruments, the ones who make the Lyra. This is called the Pipe. There's their logo. This thing is badass. It is a vocal effects processor. What's unique about this piece, see if I could do this with one hand, is that the mic is a contact mic. So I could tap into this and do like beat type stuff. It has a snare and bass generator to use impressions at the contact mic to create kick and snare with, again, those contact sensors there, just like on the Lyra. So this is on, you hold this here and on, and then this activates the second feature. So you can go kick, snare, kick, snare. And it's all detailed out here on the flip side. Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna focus. On the flip side here, it actually shows you what the knobs do, which are those symbols, and then it tells you, the action of the secondary button. So that's what's cool about this, is that you can actually, well, let me show you. I'm rambling because I'm excited. plug that out, and that's 1/4 inch. So you could plug a regular mic cable and use a regular mic. You can also plug an instrument and use this as an effects processor. I think if you do that, I don't recall, but I have a feeling that you still need to activate here, which I think upsets some people. Like, that's irritating, because if you want to use it as an effects processor, you just want it on and use your dry wet, which usually is this one here. For any of the effect, it's like the amount of the effect, and this could be like distortion amount or delay time. This is usually like amount and time of whatever the effect is. And this dial here, which looks like something out of an esoteric, you know, it's so cool, like the symbols. But, you know, there you go. You could see you got your kick or your snare or your kick snare combo. This radiation one is absolutely insane. I usually do this one, which is like frozen vocal reverb. So when you hit the secondary button right there, it freezes the reverb out like infinitely until you let go of the button. I'll just sample that into my DAW actually, and I'll use it as pads. But this contact mic is awesome. And they have another one that's more baritone, but this is the standard one. It's amazing. Like that right there, just plugging that in was pretty awesome. So this would be like the Skyne way. So this is, watch, this right here, this unit, this pipe is plugged into the tape deck, right? I'm sorry, it's actually plugged right into the, so I have things wired up as compactly as possible to make it as portable as possible. So as of right now, one of my returns features the kalimba into the tape deck. The tape deck goes directly into the Bassel Time psychoacoustic delay unit, which we'll get into. And then all of that can be routed by going alternate output, the Mackie 802 VLZ4. If you mute, it also sends it to an alternate output. Anything that I want to send, like the tape deck, click that in, alt out right here is going into the looper. Anything that's going into the board, if I want to loop it, I mute it. Muting it, alternate out, directs it to this. This is connected, the pipe is connected directly into it. So let's just freaking loop that right there and just see like what that does, right? I just got this thing in my, so, and I have the pedal here. Ready? Let's go. Now what's cool about this is that I have this as the master, so that as soon as I get a loop going, it syncs with the deluge. So that's what I said. Sometimes the deluge could be the centerpiece, and I can start with a beat here, and that will sync everything else up. We'll sync up the looper, basically. Basically, it's capture and sync, right? So I'll do something random, and I'll capture it. If I want to keep it freeform, I don't plot anything here. But since we wanted to explore the Nicks, let's put some Nicks data in here on MIDI channel 1, right? So to set a note, you can like literally, I can hold this down, just put one note in, but if I hold that down and then click, you know, outward, it'll extend it. Let me put the phone down for a second. There you go. So I held it down and then clicked the end. Let's show you this. See what I mean? There you go. See, now I can capture that. 5 and 6 is going to alternate out, so now I can capture that. I have EQ, cut out the highs and the lows to make it kind of lo-fi mid-range. So what's cool about the Deluge is that you can set this as a chromatic scale. It's so cool. You can basically choose many different scales that you want up here, which I forgot how to set actually. Now I'm gonna do that on this one and activate it with the foot pedal and play those notes. And obviously I'm just gonna do it simple, but usually I'll record movements in as I'm capturing it, right? Go up an octave, maybe. Add more reverb here on an input effect. Now I will capture the lira. So this is like my favorite part. It's like you discover, right, this emergence, something occurs. That was actually longer than how it is because I'm holding a phone, which is on fire right now. I got to shut it off, but this was a fun introduction. But as you can see, I mean, I can listen to this forever. One of the simple tricks I like to do now, simple hack, if you want to just explore audio in your creativity, just pitch something down. It makes everything so yummy. Check this out. I'm just gonna do this vinyl slowdown effect on the loop. Watch. That's just the ambient now. What about more reverb? I mean, that sounds just like a movie score. I'm trying to figure out how to, like, what to do with this, because I'm creating a lot of sounds that I can't employ myself. I have just so many amazing expressions that I want people to hear, but they're not really intended to be full songs. I put them on the Skynia channel. They're great to, I mean, just you hear them in the headphones too. There's so much ear candy with the basso time that I'll get into at a later date. It provides a lot of acoustic movement in the stereo space when it comes to capturing those tape loops and dressing them up before I capture them. So you'll hear a lot of that processing. If you're an audiophile like me, if you like ASMR, you'll really enjoy. Just put on the headphones and go on the TikTok or the Instagram, and even on the YouTube. There's a couple of live sessions there. It's kind of hard for me to capture. I haven't really figured out. I'm trying to be anti-technology, and that's what sucks about where I'm at, is that this process is very organic, and I wish that I just had people around me, feeling it in the moment, because it emerges in the moment. And the second I capture it, it's just like periods like this. It just sits in the background so good, and I'll enjoy it for a little while. Like, it'll make me have feelings and thoughts, and then, like I said, what the Buddhists do with their mandalas, right? What I'm gonna do right now is I just delete it. I might capture some of these things. Those are the things that go up on Skynia, but they get deleted from here. I only just have the videos up. So, like I said, this is like a content generator. I'm trying to figure out if I could find people who need it for like movies. I really want to get into scoring, but my main passion is sound design. So if you actually need someone to design sounds like this for any purpose, whatever it is, let me know. Hit me up and message me. This was all impromptu. Thank you for sticking around. Please join my channel if you haven't so far. Subscribe. And this is Skynia, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.